I keep the kettle on the back, left burner. The one that runs a little hot. Habit. At 70, my hands remember more faithfully than my head. The whistle is harsh, a smoker's cough of a kettle. And it always startles me even when I'm 3 feet away counting pills into the day of the week box. I like the ordinary noise. It convinces the house I'm still here. June 3rd, 2024, 7:10 a.m. The sun was already squinting through the blind slats across the sink. A chipped blue mug, Eleanor's mug, small sapphire chip, still missing from the handle. On the counter beside a spiral notebook and an old Brother laser printer that had given me a paper jam every other bank statement since 2009. The check made its soft little surrendering laugh as it cleared the deposit scanner on my phone. $2,736 of city pension. $1,042 of Social Security. Subtract the mortgage escrow, the utilities, the $84 for my cholesterol pills, $60 for the inhaler, and the $5.99 for the ad-free crossword app that still served ads about care homes near me. It left enough for groceries, gas, and one dignified indulgence. Kerrygold butter at $5.49, not the store brand. My phone lit with a photo from Amanda. Her in a hard hat, frowning at scaffolding. Thumbs up. Inspection today. The message had come in at 11:58 p.m. the night before. Late enough to be a confession. She knows I'm asleep by 9. Amanda is my daughter. 35. Smart, quick on the uptake. Common sense when she wants it. She inherited Eleanor's knack for making a room warmer just by standing in it and my knack for noticing the bill no one put on table. Evan, her husband, inherited nothing from anyone but debt and a salesman's grin. A year earlier, my kitchen with the good kettle and the bad blinds and Eleanor's mug pretending not to be a shrine. They'd asked me to back their dream. Not a wedding, not a house. Not this time. A bistro. Westall kitchen, said Evan, presenting a Canva mock-up like it was the Declaration of Independence. Clean typeface. Hand-drawn fork. Farm-to-table dad. Hyperlocal. We'll keep it simple. Breakfast and lunch. Amanda watched me the way a diver watches the pool edge. Poised, sure, waiting for the push. Just a bridge, she said. We have investors pledging 50. But the last piece would unlock it. Numbers. Plans. I belonged to numbers my whole adult life. 32 years city treasurer. Never elected, always appointed because somebody had to do the arithmetic when elected men stood in front of microphones and smiled. I asked for a budget, a timeline. Evan slid a Google sheet across my desk with the ferocity of a child showing long division to Santa. The request was precise enough to sound respectable. $62,500 initially. Security deposit for the lease. First month's rent at $4,900. Equipment deposits, permits. A retainer for the architect who moonlighted as Instagram lifestyle. Then a second $48,000 for the equipment balance and vendor prepaids. It's not a gift, Amanda said. It would be a member loan. We'll pay you back with 7% simple interest. I still have the pen mark on the table where I filled out my first wire that day, June 10, 2023. $62,500 outbound. First Metropolitan to Capital Northern memo. Member loan. Westall Kitchen, LLC. July 1st, $48,000 more. The receipts live in a manila folder with Eleanor's handwriting on the tab. L's recipes. I overruled the ethics of paper and repurposed the folder. I couldn't throw away the handwriting. I could throw away the idea of idle money. Dad, we'll do this clean, Amanda said. Everything in writing. We didn't just have a kitchen. We had a contract on my kitchen table. Member loan. Default interest 12%. Collateral. Equipment as enumerated on Schedule B. They typed espresso machine, convection oven, 2-door reach-in. Like nouns would stand in for serial numbers. I bought the butter that day on sale. I even splurged on oranges, 6 for the price of 4. I came home, peeled one, let the peel twist on my finger like Eleanor used to do, and flick it into the trash. I told her picture on the mantle that I was proud, and the picture told me nothing at all, which was fair. She never liked making decisions on memory. Unfairness doesn't announce itself. It oozes. It stains the under-sink mat and goes unnoticed until you step barefoot into something cold. August brought invoices. The architect wanted another $7,500. The city wanted $1,210 for a use change. Evan wanted me to temporarily put a $10,000 line of credit on my card so he could capture pre-opening marketing wins with a PR agency that had glossy decks and a receptionist who said my name with a question mark. You'll be reimbursed by Friday, he promised. The Friday came and went like Fridays do. I have a ledger habit. Columns, totals, dates, where the number really came from. On October 12th at 5:43 p.m., I discovered the first mistake that was not mine. A letter addressed to James Albright, or current occupant, I am James, that had been rerouted, for reasons only the post office knows, to my neighbor and then hand-delivered by mistake. Lender, Pacific Crest Home Finance. Welcome to your HELOC, it sang like a carnival barker. Credit limit, $128,000. Initial draw, $73,500 on September 29th. Intro rate, 5.99% for 12 months. I ran my hand across the kitchen table. It wasn't a letter that belongs to a man. It belonged to a house. My house. There are certain nouns that, if they arrive uninvited, change the shape of your heart for an hour and perhaps forever. HELOC is one. I called. The first person gave me a script. The second person gave me a supervisor. The supervisor gave me a word. Authorized signer on file, sir. Mrs. Amanda Collins. They said the second word only when I asked. How did she become one? A notary acknowledgement dated August 19th at Metro Notary on Lake. Eleanor used a joke that the only special skill I had was knowing how to keep a straight face in a room full of liars. I kept it on the phone. I'll need a copy of that. Of course, sir. We can mail it. I hung up and put the kettle on the back burner. I stared at Eleanor's mug. I said nothing out loud. I made tea the way she liked it, even though I drink it stronger. Bag in, bag out after exactly 1 minute. Squeeze on a spoon. Milk first, then tea. The milk did its little cloud, then found its color. Evan responded to my text with a chirping casualness that made my teeth ache. Jim, all good. We used a small draw to avoid cash flow crunch before the soft opening. It's temporary. Think of it as optimizing rates. I have seen that tone before in budget meetings, the tone of a boy with candy in his mouth telling you he can still talk. Amanda didn't answer immediately. Then, I'm with a vendor, can we talk later? Everything is fine. Everything wasn't fine. Everything is a word people use to avoid numbers. The soft opening happened without me. It'll be a zoo, Amanda said. Let's get you in when it's quiet. I stood at the window 3 days later and watched them post a boomerang of a Marcona almond salad with caption fireworks and hashtags I had to read twice. Hashtag EDO Greenslike. Amanda's smile was real. I allowed myself to be proud of a photograph. At Thanksgiving, Evan carved the turkey at their house like a man selling slices of himself. He explained brining. He poured a Cabernet that had a number on the label and watched our faces react to the number. To West Hill, he said, the Pinot I brought stayed unopened on the counter like an old uncle. Amanda's cheeks were flushed. She pecked my cheek. Dad, you have to come for staff meal next week. Would love to, I said. They never scheduled it. By Christmas, my pension had a new deduction. The HELOC started pulling automatic payments. $611.28 on the 24th, a merry little debit. Dad, Amanda said on December 27th, 8:18 p.m. When they finally answered my calls, Evan handled the paperwork because he's been in and out of the bank with the business. We had to move quickly to keep the project from collapsing. Whose project? My voice surprised me. Soft. Because from where I sit, it's the house Eleanor died in. Her silence was not the silence of guilt. It was the silence of a daughter trying to remember if love was an asset or a liability on her own balance sheet. Evan took the phone. Let's not be dramatic, he said. We'll refinance it off in 6 months. We got a great rate. On fraud, I said. On family cooperation. I pressed the end call button with my thumb, which shook. The kettle whistled, and I forgot I put water on. I turned the gas off and leaned my forehead against the cool cabinet door, the way a man leans into a prayer he doesn't believe in anymore. If you believe older voices still matter, support this channel with a like and a subscription. January makes resolutions and then breaks them. I kept mine. At 9:03 a.m. on January 2nd, I walked into the counter recorder's office with a stack of paper that could kill a fly by intimidation. My breath fogged as I waited. At the counter, a woman named Deirdre with a silver beret and a coffee that smelled like cinnamon said, "How can I help?" I handed over the member loan agreement and Schedule B, then the receipts, wire confirmations with times, bank statements with line items highlighted, the HELOC letter, and a printout from the Westhill Kitchen Instagram showing a bright La Marzocco espresso machine I knew had a serial number under its pretty skin. I had taken a picture of it through the front window glass at 7:12 a.m. Phone flat against the pane, like a teenager peering into a car. The prep cook vacuumed behind the bar, humming. He didn't look up. "I'd like to file a UCC-1 financing statement," I said. Secured party James M. Albright. Debtor Westhill Kitchen, LLC. Collateral description. Equipment enumerated on Schedule B in all additions, substitutions, and proceeds thereof. Deirdre read. I watched. She looked at me over her readers. "You a lawyer?" "An old bookkeeper," I said. "We don't get many of those." She stamped. The sound was ceremonial. She slid a copy toward me like a communion wafer. Recording number 24-0102-1137. "You served notice yet?" "I will," I said. I did. Certified mail to the LLC, to the landlord at Brookridge Properties, to Evan as managing member. I also, for my sins and my sanity, called Amanda. She didn't pick up. She texted an hour later. "Can we talk tomorrow?" Today's insane. At 6:58 p.m., while my pork chop cooled and the evening news talked about storms out west, my phone lit. Evan, voice bright. "What did you do?" "I recorded my lien." "That's hostile." "That's math," I said. "We are family. We are ledger entries. You can love someone and still not let them ruin your account. You won't see a cent if you sabotage us," he warned. "Investors run when they smell litigious energy." "Then they're smart," I said. Amanda texted at 10:31 p.m. "Dad, please don't do anything we can't come back from." I stared at the tiles on my kitchen backsplash. There's a hairline crack in the third tile over the stove, a crack I put there in 1987 with a frying pan and a temper. Young men break things loudly. Old men break things by omission. On January 19th, I printed emails. Amanda to banker named Marcus, subject, parents HELOC, discussing expedite notarization. The copy came to my inbox by accident. She had mistyped Marcus's address and included mine. Her paragraph ended with, "He doesn't need to come in. We have POA." They did not. They had a piece of paper notarized at Metro Notary, stamped by a man who had gone on lunch break or into nap, while someone signed James M. Albright with a zip in the M I have never once used. On January 22nd at 11:13 a.m., I went to Metro Notary. The man behind the glass wore a tie too short by 2 inches, and the little white triangle of his belly showed, like a flag. He squinted at my ID and then at the record book. "Big day," he said. "We stamp a lot these days." He found August 19th. He found my name. He frowned. "This looks not like this." He pointed at my signature on the ID. The M on my license is a careful little mountain range. The M on his book was a sprint. "Do you keep the security footage?" I asked. 2 weeks. "Of course," I said, like I hadn't expected anything else. I felt old in that moment, an animal that sees speed it can't match. February took its pound of flesh in more automatic payments. $611.28. Then $611.28. Little soldiers marching. I paid out of my checking account. It was either that or let my credit bleed, and I couldn't stand the thought of a number beside my name turning red. Eleanor would have told me to let them feel the consequence. Eleanor paid our water bill late, wants to prove a point to herself. She smiled the whole day. That cost us $3.27 in late fees. I never learned that form of religion. I worshipped on time. I recorded phone calls. Evan said on February 7th at 4:22 p.m., "We'll convert your loan to equity post-opening. It's better for optics." He said optics like sunlight through leaves and meant, I think, you will own nothing and be grateful for the view. I saved the file as Evan_optics.mp3. I backed it up to a thumb drive and then hid the thumb drive in Eleanor's jewelry box, top drawer under the long strand of imitation pearls. She wore once to a gala where we ate chicken on china and agreed it tasted like chicken. I don't like parties where a ribbon is cut with enormous scissors. They feel like funerals where the grave is a lease. But I went. March 23 RD, 2:00 p.m. The mayor's deputy was there. A man who used to sit in my conference room and ask whether we could move line items around to pretend we had money we didn't. He didn't recognize me with my hat on. Amanda wore a red dress. It made her look like a version of herself at 17 I remembered and couldn't save. Evan wore a suit that tried too hard and succeeded. There were canapes, little toasts with whipped goat cheese, microgreens like punctuation. The espresso machine hissed and preened on the bar. A dragon trained to drink milk. Dad. Amanda kissed my cheek. She smelled like citrus and achievement. You made it. Wouldn't miss it, I said, and let my eyes rest on Evan's face just long enough for the temperature to drop a degree. The Chamber of Commerce woman said nice things in a voice that codified nice. Photographers arranged humans into symmetry. I stood near the stack of printed menus, noted the font, noted the typo, vinaigrette. Bit my tongue. The deputy mayor cut the ribbon, and everybody clapped like they'd witnessed a birth that had cost no one anything. I had something in my inside jacket pocket. It wasn't a gun, though there are men in my neighborhood who would have brought one. It was a notice of default and demand for surrender of collateral, printed on my old laser printer. 2 staples in the corner because one never holds. It named the equipment. La Marzocco Linea AV serial number I had copied at 6:12 a.m. last week when a sleepy barista propped open the door and took out the trash. Blodgett DFG 100 oven. True 2-door reach-in. A Hobart mixer with a bowl that looked like a mirror to another world. I waited until the speeches evaporated. In the post-cheer murmur, I stepped forward. My throat was dry. I could taste dish soap on the water in the cup I had taken from the counter. Amanda, I said. She turned and saw the paper and half smiled like she thought I was handing her a card or a blessing. Her face, when she understood that the first word was notice, showed me child and woman at once. Evan looked as if someone had opened a window and let in weather he had not ordered. What is this? Amanda asked, her voice an octave higher than truth. It's the math, I said. Dad, not today, she whispered. Today is precisely when you cut ribbon on collateral, I said. Sarcasm tastes like metal. Evan leaned in. You don't want to do this in public. I wanted not to do this at all, I said. A photographer decided he wanted to document a touching moment between a father and daughter at a ribbon cutting. He raised his camera. Evan put up a hand like a traffic cop. The photographer put down the hand like it had cost him money, which it had. The room did that ripple thing rooms do when something is unplanned. The espresso machine hissed. Sir, said a young manager type with important hair, stepping into the circle. We are having a private event. You're serving the deputy mayor on public sidewalk, I said, and held the notice lightly in my hand like it weighed nothing, like it was a tissue, like it didn't rearrange weight and consequence. Amanda signed acknowledging receipt. She didn't take the pen. She looked at me as if I had swung the big scissors at her. I set the paper on the bar. The barista moved a stack of saucers to avoid putting them on top of the law. For some reason, that small courtesy undid me more than the rest. I love you, I said to Amanda. It came out almost stupidly, but I will not subsidize your husband's optimism. Dad, she said, and then her mouth shut like a purse. Evan picked up the notice, laughed as if laughter could turn water into wine. This is unenforceable, he said, but his thumb rubbed the corner where my stamp from the recorder shone, and his voice stopped laughing one word too early. Then ignore it, I said. I turned. Outside, the man from the chamber asked me to smile for group shot. I smiled in the direction of the shade. There is a courtroom in our county where the fluorescent lights are the color of soup, and the wooden pews remember the weight of hundreds of marriages and thefts. On April 18th, case 2024 CV 11487, Albright versus West Hill Kitchen. We reconvened there to discuss whether a man who does arithmetic could count anything. My lawyer, a woman named Salma, was 10 years younger than Amanda and twice as calm as anyone in the room. She wore a navy suit and the kind of shoes that said, I can run in these if I need to. Evan's lawyer wore a scarf like an opinion. We didn't argue love. Salma argued contract. She put the member loan on the projector. She walked the judge through wire confirmations. June 10th, $62,500. July 1st, $48,000. August 5th, $10,000 to Bright Fox PR. September 29th. A HELOC draw of $73,500 with a transfer to the West Hill Kitchen operating checking ending in 4421 at 3:08 p.m. She had a way of setting a number down and letting it sit without company until the room had to look at it. The room looked. The defense attempted air. Family arrangements, they breathed. Unclear intent. Promise of equity. Lack of serial numbers on Schedule B. We conceded the serial numbers where we had to, and then pointed to my photographs. Salma held up a thumb drive in a plastic bag, chain of custody tag, like a little tail. Your Honor, we have identification of equipment sufficient for reasonable certainty. The judge, a woman with tired eyes and beautiful hands, rotated a pen between her fingers. And the HELOC? She asked. We contend the notarization was defective, Salma said. And even if it were not, Your Honor, Mr. Albright has been making the payments to protect his credit and the collateral. They have not made any meaningful payments to him. At this point, perhaps inevitably, Evan's lawyer introduced a new word, ungrateful. Not in legal analysis, but aside to Amanda when Salma asked when the last principal payment had been tendered. The word reached my ears like gossip and burnt sugar. We obtained an order. Not full surrender, not yet. Temporary restraining order preventing sale or transfer of any equipment listed or in common view pending hearing. A requirement to escrow 40% of daily gross receipts into an account under the court supervision. A timeline on discovery that made Evan pale. It wasn't triumph. It was a metronome clicking in my favor for once. That night, I ate soup from a can and a toasted slice of rye with too much butter. I sat in Eleanor's chair and allowed myself one small meanness. I imagined Evan explaining escrow to his friends who had watched him pour wine and say invest like it was toast. Then I set the thought down like a hot pan you don't want to damage the counter with. The second climactic thing didn't happen in the courtroom. It happened in a conference room at Brookridge Properties on May 2 ND. 10:00 a.m. The landlord, a woman named Julia who wore a sweater the color of a robin's egg, looked at her laptop and then at me. We'd like to talk about the land under 414 North Callan Drive, she said. Your tenant? I asked, knowing. I'm not proud of knowing. I had brought the folder labeled in Eleanor's hand again. Not recipes, not anymore. Albright Family Trust, land. We had set it up in 2002, when Eleanor convinced me that we should buy a little strip of nothing behind our house to build a tool shed on. And then I discovered how much of the town is owned by ghosts and trusts and names that are just paper. What about it? I asked. The parcel, Julia said, is part of a land trust. Albright Family Trust. Yes, I said. Her eyebrows moved about a millimeter. It counted as surprise and landlord. Our records show your tenant's landlord, their house, was built on a ground lease in 2019. The trust holds fee simple. The lease has provisions for rent adjustments. Ground leases are the bones under a neighborhood. Most people never feel them unless a storm comes. I've been covering the taxes, I said. So we'd like to discuss an adjustment, she said. Translation, I know you know. Do you want to twist or mend? The adjustment didn't evict anyone. I didn't want my grandchildren sleeping in a motel. It repriced the lease to the market. It stopped the little monthly arrogance of a man in a new jacket claiming the ground under his shoes because someone else manicured the lawn. It put in the mail a letter that began, effective June 1st, base rent shall adjust to $3,100, and ended with my signature, which looks like itself. At 6:40 p.m. on May 7th, Amanda called. She didn't text. The old ring sounded in my kitchen like a doorbell in a family sitcom. I let it ring twice. I picked up on the third. Dad. Her voice was small, not girlish, small like a pebble. Yes. Is there anything you can do about the lease? I did something, I said. I made sure your children will always have a roof, and I made sure you and Evan will feel that roof is paid for. I stirred my tea. The spoon hit the side of the cup with a little bell. Do you need groceries? I asked because Eleanor would have. She cried then, not the dramatic cry that thinks about mirrors. The cry that comes when numbers settle into a shape that looks like your own reflection and you can't unsee it. Dad, I'm sorry, she said. I thought. And she didn't finish because finishing would mean choosing a noun that let me out a story where I was the problem. Your husband thought. I offered. It's not just him, she said, and I loved her for that. I wanted it to. I wanted it all to be fast. Fast is a verb for falling, I said. I wanted to tell her about Eleanor's late fee and smile. I wanted, against every doctrine of consequence, to make her tea exactly right, bag out after a minute, milk first. I wanted to say, come home, and then laugh at myself, because home is history, not present. Dad, she said, will you come by one morning? We open at 7. I'll make you eggs. She knows my weakness. Eggs I don't cook taste like forgiveness. I will, I said. The end of a story is not a gavel. It's a reconciled bank statement. On June 30th, the escrow account had $28,114.27. West Hill Kitchen had paid in what it owed because the judge, the calm, tired-eyed judge, had given them a calendar and a threat that sounded like a lullaby. The HELOC had $39,282.71 of principal left. I wrote a check to pay it off. I could have forced them to. I paid it because I wanted my house to stop reporting to anyone but me, and because the relief of a number going to zero beats the pure joy of revenge by exactly $611.28 a month. The UCC remained. They would pay my loan down on a schedule that looked like adulthood. Evan took a job nights managing a different restaurant owned by someone who likes men who learn humility the hard way. Amanda grew lines in her face I wish she hadn't had to earn so fast. The barista learned to write my name on a cup without the extra E. On July 8th at 7:06 a.m., I sat at the bar at West Hill. The morning sun came in low, and I could count dust if I wanted to be unkind. Amanda slid a plate across me. 2 eggs over medium, toast with too much butter. Dad, she said, we got a food truck for Saturdays. It was cheaper than brunch service. That's math, I said, and her mouth twitched. I saved the HELOC payoff letter, she said, and then because she knows me, it's in a plastic sleeve. We ate in the rhythm old people and children share. Nothing to prove, everything to learn. A young couple came in with a stroller. They ordered avocado toast with an egg on the side, this time because she hates yolk on her toast, but he thinks that's a crime. The couple laughed like the world hadn't noticed, and I wanted to bless them. Amanda poured my coffee. She set down milk without asking. Too much, she asked. It's fine, I said. It was more than I'd put, but it was fine. When I stood to leave, Evan came out from the back. He looked thinner. He held a piece of paper. I, Evan Collins, he read, acknowledge receipt of notice of default dated March 23rd, and agree that the collateral described therein secures the obligation to James Albright as per the member loan agreement dated June 10th, 2023. He handed me a pen. I wanted to sign it where you could see. I looked at Amanda. She looked at the floor, then at me. I signed as witness. The pen did not shake. He folded the paper, too, carefully. I understood the care. It's what you do when you learn that paper can break you and also save you. Outside, the light off the La Marzocco's chrome reflected a thin line across the sidewalk like a horizon you could step on. That afternoon, I stopped at the grocery store. I bought butter, the good one, and oranges, 6 for the price of 4. I bought a new kettle, one with a silicone handle that doesn't get hot. The old one had earned its retirement. At home, I put the new kettle on the back left burner out of respect for the choreography of habit. I took Eleanor's mug down and set it beside the stove. I boiled water. I took the bag out at a minute. Milk first. The cloud found its color. I carried my tea to the kitchen table and opened my notebook. I checked off a box I'd left empty since last June. Member loan secured. I added a box under it. Member loan repaid. I didn't check it yet. Not because I doubted. Because checking it will be my last small joy on a day when no one is looking. I put down my pen. I looked at the photograph on the mantel. I told her I didn't choose revenge. I chose audits. I said it aloud to a room that has heard me mutter worse. And then, because a man should be allowed a final flourish in houses where he pays the tax bill and the light bill and the price of learning, I added quietly, and I balanced the books. The kettle clicked as it cooled. In the backyard, a neighbor's child laughed with the unbroken bell of someone unacquainted with escrow, liens, or men who smile and say invest. My phone didn't ring. I was not uninvited from anywhere. I sat, and I drank, and I let the numbers in my bones hum themselves into a tune that felt at last like mine. I washed Eleanor's mug before it could stain. I put it on the rack to to dry. The last drop of tea ran down and paused on the rim like it had to decide whether gravity or stubbornness would win. It fell into the sink with a sound as small as justice. And that is how a man like me says amen.